If you've been here on Splash Week with us, you've been drafting best ball teams since February, since March, since April, since May, and all those months of build up, all those hours and hours of hard work, all that sweat equity built up, drafting teams here on stream, here, wherever you are across the world, while taking care of your baby, while on the toilet, while traveling, going to different state lines to build a tournament. And it all came down to Amari Cooper. Welcome to the world of best ball if you're not familiar. But let's get into it. This is going to be your best ball finals review show, your best ball post-mortem, I guess, for some of you guys out there, including myself. But let's talk about it here, of course, and let's start as we always do by looking at the chat, pulling over, and I have to open up with my little soliloquy. I do see some lovely chats here from Robert Griffin III, some crypto pooper dying to get semifinal winnings. It'll be out in a few days, man. Just take a breather, relax. But the soliloquy I have to give up top here. So best ball, we talk about a lot all year, war of attrition, all that stuff. And I think you saw the flip side of that. You saw the cornucopia side of best ball this past week, where I can tell you guys, I don't want to spoil it here because I didn't tweet out any screenshots. I didn't say anything about where do I have any teams in the finals? Do I have anything going? All that stuff. I would say that from my perspective, the main thing that you see with best ball, and I knew that my lineups were in trouble, was when I used the EZ sweat leaderboard that he had. I know EZ, one of the guys out there, does a lot of the Excel coding for the Badge Bro, some of his own stuff as well. I forget his site name, but if you look up EZDFS on Twitter, I'm sure you will find it. Point being, I put my lineups in that. I knew the second I put my lineups in there that I was like, I am now too invested in this. This is going to be an incredibly tough weekend. Of course, with Christmas going on, family obligations, all of that. And the main thing I would say for best ball is and this is my personal thing as a gambler as well, and I've done it a little bit differently over the last few years, and I don't think it's been a good thing for me. I hate talking about things until they pay out. That's the one thing about me. And it's one change that I've had to kind of adjust to here, being a streamer, doing these shows every day here on Splash Play, trying to talk to you guys about process, talk about the things that went right, things that went wrong, and all that. And I hate, I have the most gambler's luck kind of person where I just don't like talking about things until they hit. I never lock anything in, never have any confidence till anything goes. And it's proven to be the case this year, where I have it a couple times posted in the Splash Play channel on the Deposit King Discord talking about, oh man, this showdown team is really live. I'm in first place. It's the fourth quarter. Might be able to take this one down. And then, of course, something goes weird. A lot of weird things this year have happened in terms of the showdowns in particular. Things don't work out. So I really hate whenever you do invest in terms of that advanced part where we're investing enough time, obviously, investing enough emotional energy and all of that. I just hate looking at teams until they're ready to go. So keep that in mind as we get through this video. But I think the biggest takeaway from this past weekend is just how hard it is to win this. And I know a lot of the casuals have dropped off, people that were complaining about pods that want to have a certain cut rate of points advancing them. Those people are gone now. Those people didn't advance the semifinals. So for you guys who did make it and did make it into the finals as well, kudos to you. Congratulations to you for all of you people out there. But I would say that's the biggest takeaway from the semifinals is just that, last week, war of attrition, unlucky pods and all of that. This week, it's did you have the guys who went for absolutely outlandish games? And sometimes the point these guys went for outlandish games and did mostly nothing for you all year. Amari Cooper, a guy did not help me advance a lot of teams. I was very over the field on him on Underdog and DraftKings. George Pickens, another guy you guys know. I have Kate for as hard as anybody. He goes bananas on Saturday for a game that he hasn't had all year, including when Deontay Johnson was out with, of all people, Mason Rudolph at QB, which, yeah, we did talk about here on stream, so I get the victory lap on that. Point being, though, it's just the stuff hitting that you had no idea. And for me, too, Saturday, did not have Puka in any of my lineups that saw Puka go off, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a bad sign. I think that's sort of what it is for week 16, heading into week 17. So we're going to look at the top scorers here. We're going to look at Underdog. We're going to look at DraftKings. I will tell you guys, I'll spoil it a little bit. There's some bad news. There's still some good news. I would say arguably some really good news. And then there's going to be some in between. So let's get into it here. Let me check the chats first. Hope the children of the Squirt Squad and the orphans they emerged from had a magical Christmas. Yes, our guy Ross here didn't end up doing a stream for Christmas Day. And part of it was Ross. Ross DM'd me over the weekend on Discord and was like, hey, man, don't feel like you have to do a stream. And I was like, I have to do a stream. I like showing up here. And on Christmas Day, I knew there was going to be content. But I also woke up at 5:45. We're getting another early wake up time after he was waking up at 7:30 for about 2 months in a row. And now we're back to the shit again. So that I was just exhausted, didn't want to do a stream, and then also had to get my own lineups in and shit. So I apologize for not being here for you guys yesterday, but frankly, I don't know. Actually, my takes probably would have helped, but it didn't work for my lineups. But I would have said yesterday, play less than 2 Chiefs, play less than 2 Eagles. What wins? Less than 2 Chiefs, less than 2 Eagles. So you missed out on that. My apologies. But we are back on the grind today. So you won't talk about AR until when? I talk about AR every day. It's not like the AR thing. I will say during the year, feeling so good about him is one thing I would probably take back just because he was getting a little bit banged up. I'd probably be a little bit less exuberant about how he was hitting, but I think that's really the biggest tale of my best ball mania year. And really my best ball year in general is got these big, macro takes right, got a lot of things right that I think people were really pushing back on. Rookie tight ends, Anthony Richardson going 0 RB this year, I think was even tougher than it has been in the past, but still was a build that ended up working, and we'll see how much it worked in certain builds that I have. The point being that I would say for all of you guys out there is like, I just don't count your chickens before they hatch. Like Adam Thielen. Remember when we were here on these videos going like, fuck, man, I can't believe I didn't draft Adam Thielen. Can't believe the hive mind of DFS and my own bias against older receivers get to me. And what happens? Adam Thielen does absolutely nothing basically the entire back half of the year. The age starts to show. Keenan Allen, another guy we didn't have enough of. He, of course, doesn't even play in week 16 as the Chargers clearly not playing for anything right now. And Keenan Allen is protecting himself, I guess, for whatever he's going to have to do in the future, assuming the Chargers maybe do blow things up. So I think what we kind of have to learn with best ball is like, you can't overreact. And I think that's the part that I've hated about this season, to be honest with you guys, is like seeing people victory lapping on Twitter very early, seeing people victory lapping things week 1, week 2, week 3. And it's like, ultimately, like none of that matters. And even if you get it right, it might go wrong in week 16, week 17. And I think that's the part that is really tough to balance in your head. It's like you get things right. And even still, if you end up in the wrong pod where a guy's got Amari Cooper, a guy's got Pickens, a guy's got Puka Nacua, which happened for one of my best ball mania teams with Amari Cooper, I would say that just sometimes you can't dig out. And that's the lesson of the day. But there we go. Some of my best ball year had all the pieces you needed, but not enough together. Definitely is it. Feel like CMC will have more ownership than Cooper. Could be wrong, though. Cooper will just be less owned inherently. I do agree there's going to be a lot of CMC, but let's get into it here. Let's look at the top overall scorers for week 16 so we can get a read on who's probably advancing people the most. Amari Cooper, George Pickens, no surprises there. Half point is actually standard. With half point PPR, it is going to be even higher. 46 half PPR points for Amari Cooper, 37 for Breece Hall, 33.5 for George Pickens. Those were the three guys where if you had them in some configuration, you had a pretty good shot in advancing. If you only had one, you were swimming uphill. If there was another person in your pod that had both of them, that's definitely a tough part of it. And they also, too, were guys that aligned in terms of ADP, where it's pretty easy to get Cooper, pretty easy to get Pickens. Also possible to get Breece Hall with that build, and actually would have been a week 17 correlation that some people might have had. We have Amari Cooper and Breece Hall. Of course, those guys were playing on Thursday Night Football coming up this upcoming week here. But again, if you were drafting teams in best ball and drafting for that week 17 correlation, you might have naturally landed on them. So those are players that certainly have the highest advance rates. If you are relying on them solely, they're the guys that dragged your dead lineup to the finals. You might be in for a tough scene, especially with Amari Cooper, who is, again, playing that Jets defense that has shut down pretty much everybody besides Tyreek. And Cooper doesn't run enough out of the slots. I have a ton of confidence for him going against the Jets. Of course, the Jets, very good defensively outside, not very good at defending the slot. For Amari Cooper, I think that is one of the players that sometimes, Jordan Addison, we pointed out last week, where he had the big day that carried a lot of people across. Didn't see that happening this week. And of course, he ended up getting hurt too. But if you have these guys that are like, the ceiling is not the most likely outcome, it's not even in the most expected range of outcomes, those are the guys you're going to have the most fears for heading into the finals. So I would say Amari Cooper, the most fragile play heading into the finals, besides maybe like a Jared Goff. I know a lot of people dragging along. Great job taking the day off, Dad. Yes, thank you. Thank you. The day off, I'm sure, cost me the ones and ones of dollars we get here from YouTube. But yeah, it's just, I would have liked to have done it, but like, frankly, it's just the exhaustion, man. The exhaustion of the weekend catches up. And I will be real with you guys too. This is honestly something I should have put into my little opening soliloquy. I will say for me, yesterday personally, I did have the game on my laptop. And then at a certain point, just put on YouTube on the TV because like I was feeling depressed. Like, and I think for me, this is the hardest part of like doing this journey so live and in public is like, I feel like if things don't work out exactly the way as I want to, and I don't get, the teams exactly where I want them to be, that I feel like I'm somehow letting you guys down or letting myself down or like embarrassing myself throughout this part of the process where we have been living in public, building these teams over and over again. And I think last night kicked me in the dick a little bit in terms of that. Just, again, I knew it was coming because I did the pre-sweat, the pre kind of thinking it through. But also, like I will say for the entire process for myself, that's the one part here. Never going to complain about the joy of being able to do this and turn on the camera every day and do a stream with you guys. But I will say, like, the one part for me is just like, it can really be tough. And I'm sure it's the same even if you're not streaming your team. So like, don't get too down about it. Best ball is really tough. This is your first year really investing as well. I think try not to get spoiled by whatever the outcome was. Where last year was my first year maxing out everything. Got a finalist team across on Underdog. Got 2 finalists on DK. This year, it's not the outlay. And I think that's the hardest part to kind of adjust where sometimes the beginner's luck, sometimes just the luck of a season can be that way. But if you guys got your ass kicked or if you guys are riding high, just make sure to keep it even tempered until we get to next week. Next Monday, you will know if you are a millionaire or not, or 100,000 or whatever the case may be. Breece Hall, George Pickens, Puka Nacua, Joe Flacco, Josh Allen. Flacco being here, obviously not a big part for best ball. But what a run for Joe Flacco. I know we've talked about this a lot on stream. What does Joe Flacco do? Throws a lot of deep shots, pocket passer, aggressive amount of dropbacks. He's fitting a lot of the criteria that maybe defend Baker Mayfield all year. Joe Flacco is doing that. So again, not a guy who's going to factor into best ball too much. I think he's in a few pods out there, but not enough, I think, that it will matter. But Flacco, with how he's played this year, I think it just speaks to the level of a pro QB, a professional guy who's done it, who's won Super Bowls or a Super Bowl, versus all the backups we've seen who like sometimes have spike weeks, but then for the most part, you're seeing the bad Jake Browning coming around the bed. You're seeing the bad version of Aiden O'Connell a lot of times. Aiden O'Connell didn't throw a pass for the first quarter yesterday. So you're seeing the difference between like what a trusted adult QB is, who still has some juice in his arm and some juice in terms of his overall physicality, versus like the guys who are backups who don't have that arm, who don't have the trust to get the ability down and outside. And I think that's something with Flacco that I've seen, and I think would certainly as well with how Flacco's hit this year, with how Baker Mayfield has hit this year. I think something to keep in mind for the future, where if we have guys that are just gunners, I kind of have started to fawn less over the guys who are just gunslingers. Whereas like, now the whole meta is, hey, you get guys who rush, throw the deep ball and rush. I think you really have to be mindful of like, is this guy a QB who's going to get the ball downfield? And I would say, for Flacco, for Mayfield, even for Will Levis, like those guys have had a little bit more upside because they get the ball downfield, and just something to kind of remember when you are grading out QBs. Not letting anyone down, Spags. We appreciate your grind. Thank you. I mean, look, there is good news to come, but I do feel like I'm just have to be real with you guys as always here, talking about the process. And I have to say, to Pete's credit, was watching his stream right before the show. Of course, our podcast pal, Pete Overzet, talking about, the positive side of things, keeping a brave face. I'm not like the brave face guy. Like, I'll come on here and try to do an entertaining show. But like, if I'm getting my ass kicked, I got my ass kicked in DFS this weekend. I had a tough basketball weekend as well. It just like, it's hard to dust yourself off and do that. And that's okay. Like, that's part of the journey, I think. So just something to keep in mind, where, if, I know it's hard sometimes to keep your head up when money is being exchanged, and sometimes money is being exchanged not the best way. Josh Allen, Derek Carr, Justin Fields, DJ Chark, another one where just a dog shit player did nothing for you all year. He goes off here. So if you draft a DJ Chark team to the finals, more power to you. Don't expect it to happen again, though. For what it's worth, like Bryce Young, probably the best eye test game he's had in a while, amidst a run of a couple decent weeks. If you have your Jonathan Mingo out there, maybe he can get there for one more week. Maybe Thielen can dust himself off for one more week. Terrace Marshall, though, remains as dead as dead. Jalen Hurts, top 10. Again, we're seeing the elite QB stuff here where you have your Josh Allen, you have Jalen Hurts, top 10. And then you also have Derek Carr, Justin Fields, Joe Flacco. So like, that's the thing. We've talked about the league QBs a lot. We're going to give you a lot more safety, a lot more floor production, but in terms of the ceiling, any QB can beat an elite QB in a given week. And I would say, I hope for next year that the draft capital kind of accounts for that. Maybe we do see a few less elite QBs going that high, just because like, I think QBs should inherently be 4th round, 5th round guys as a max. I hope the industry pushes back on that a little bit, because again, like Allen and Hurts didn't kill you necessarily, but like Patrick Mahomes actively killed you both this week in general. Like, where did Mahomes actually even finish? Yeah, Mahomes is number 41 overall. So that, again, that's the bad side of elite QBs. And then it gets even worse too. If you took Mahomes, you probably took him with Kelsey. So that you really got the double effect of that one. So just, I would say, for you guys out there, we'll see what the industry does in terms of the overall ADPs. But like for me, I would definitely say, try to avoid elite QBs a little bit more, at least, at best flat with the field, just because I don't think you're getting the upside you think you are. Other players to note here: Evans, Jordan Love just outside the top 10, also safely beats Patrick Mahomes. Russell Wilson going to be a very important player for me this upcoming week. Spoiler alert. Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So again, all the players we are not surprised to see up here. And Bryce Young putting up 22 half PPR points. Again, kudos to Bryce Young, I think, turning things around after, to me, like looking like one of the worst rookie QBs I've seen in a while. They're stuck with him, so they're going to get the best they can out of him. QB top 10, nothing too surprising here. Again, we just basically saw it. Flacco, Josh Allen, Derek Carr, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Bryce Young, Matthew Stafford, all guys scoring over 20. I guess that's the one positive, is that if you dragged unique combos at QB into the semifinals, you got a good shot to have 2 QBs live. So I think that's a positive for sure. If you don't have one of the guys in the top 10, you might have still snuck in a team. But obviously we are getting a little bit thin with some of these guys. I think for any team that is out there that doesn't have one of the elite QBs getting dragged in, I think you're live. If you don't have Justin Fields getting dragged in, I think that's a pretty solid run out as well. Derek Carr, I feel a little bit less confidence in. I do think he's one of the guys, like much like Amari Cooper, much like a Breece Hall even. I think those guys come back down to earth really meaningfully this week. But again, every QB for the most part was around that 20 to 30 point band. So like a lot of QBs could have gotten in there. So I don't think there's necessarily a chalk QB besides Jared Goff, who just like is getting there surely because a lot of people got in from the first round into the semifinals with him. Running backs, let's go. Of course, we'll check the chat more in a moment. I just want to breeze through this part so we can get through the laborious part of looking at my portfolio. Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, number 2 on the week. Did not factor in anything DFS-wise, but he did have quietly a very good game that he's been advancing a lot. If he didn't kill you in week 15, you're probably sitting pretty here because it does seem like Houston going the wrong way for sure. And of course, Houston, Tennessee coming up in week 17. And it does seem, again, CJ Stroud probably not going to go again for the rest of the year, which was our concern last week. Jahmyr Gibbs at number 3, steadily pulling ahead of David Montgomery. Would like to see a Montgomery flip next week, but we'll talk about that more in a moment. Christian McCaffrey at number 4. Again, McCaffrey did exactly what you need him to do with the price tag you paid. That said, McCaffrey is absolutely the chalk getting into the finals. So I hope he has a game like this next week against Washington. That is the scariest fade of all, to be having CMC against Washington. But we know how that goes. That's been the case. I think Pete mentioned on his stream last year. Justin Jefferson, a guy that I carried into the finals. He didn't even make my team in the final week as he went for absolutely nothing, getting bracketed by the Packers. I don't expect that to be the case for McCaffrey, but if you're the Niners, maybe, I don't know. They're still playing for the bye, so I think McCaffrey's still going to be a full go. But definitely some ways this game can get weird, and I would say for the hope of most of us out there who don't have McCaffrey on our teams, I think you have to root for McCaffrey for things to go weird, or him just to put up a 15 to 20 point day. And if that's it, then you're probably good to hopefully have a shot to beat him. Chris Rodriguez, number 5, Khalil Herbert, number 6. Really was hoping Roshan would have the day. Roshan having the day Khalil Herbert had would have helped a few of my teams, but ultimately Khalil Herbert probably didn't pay off his price tag in the year. He's part of a 0RB portfolio for you. He probably did help you a good amount. I know he put up 22 full-point PPR points as well. James Conner, number 7. Kyron Williams, number 8. Kyron very live for the big game coming up this week going against the Giants, so Kyron, certainly a player that if you snuck him in, I'd feel pretty good about. Not the highest total. He's not a guy driving that advance rate necessarily. But again, for an 18th round pick, 17th round pick, whatever you got him, he's definitely paid off the dividends. And I think heading into this final round, he's probably, in terms of like a late running back, probably like the best lever that could absolutely just beat CMC outright. So I think Kyron Williams at number 8, an interesting player here who didn't really help you in week 16, but in week 17, like he can be the winner, and it would not shock me even a little bit. Saquon, number 8, shockingly good day for him against the Eagles. Of course, the Giants look a little bit reinvigorated in that game with Tyrod Taylor at QB. Certainly wouldn't be the worst thing for him to be starting again for Saquon Barkley. But Saquon, again, not a guy I trust. You probably didn't advance a lot of him anyway. But if you have him part of a portfolio, he's probably a little bit of a low-owned leverage, which does have some upside. DeAndre Swift, number 10. Algier, number 11. So Bijan Robinson teams. Again, we're going to look at my portfolio in a moment. I do think the one thing that we have seen is going 2 wide receivers at the end of the first round, turn to the second round, going to be a better outlook for a lot of teams out there than it was drafting those running backs. Nick Chubb goes down. Eckler, garbage. Bijan Robinson just never really got there this year besides one game here and there. So for Tyler Algier, again, nice 0RB play, but probably didn't do enough for your portfolio. I know he didn't do enough for mine. Zamir White, Najee Harris, Rashad White, Aaron Jones. So these are your top players. Gus Edwards still looking good. Melvin Gordon did not take any work away, which is what I was hoping for a little bit in the showdown yesterday. But Gus Edwards got the majority of the work. Justice Hill got still a good amount of work as well. So those are your 2 running backs heading forward for Baltimore. But Edwards definitely the one that's actually valid in best ball. I'm going to have a little more teams floating around with them. Let's save that for after the video. Let's save that for after week 17. Let's do that way. Because like there's going to be potentially a lot to talk about week 17. I mean, either way, I guess there'll be a lot to talk about, but let's pocket that one for now. Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Puka Nacua, DJ Chark, number 4 wide receiver on the week. Again, just shows you for best ball what happens sometimes. I would say if you guys are out there, if you're looking at DJ Chark being there and going, this is a sign that I should draft more running backs early because you can get late wide receiver production. Look at Puka Nacua, look at DJ Chark. Again, if you had DJ Chark all year, you're getting 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then all of a sudden it flips in week 17. So I think that's just one thing here. Like you guys are going to take away whatever you take away from looking at numbers like this. But ultimately, I would say you look at Amari Cooper, you look at Pickens. Like this is the kind of build where if you went on an extreme 0RB run, or even if you went on like a hero RB and then a bunch of wide receivers in a row, you had a better shot at building the kind of lineup that could have given you upside. And that was what I'd advocated for this entire offseason. So I think I feel good about that take. Even though the first round wide receivers did not help us out on the home stretch very much, or at least the early first round receivers did not help us out on the home stretch. Mike Evans, number 5, Justin Jefferson, number 6, good return for him. Nick Mullins throws for over 400 yards in that game. Very good sign for Justin Jefferson. The matchup coming up against Green Bay, another soft one. So Jefferson, if you somehow snuck him into the playoffs, stuck him into the semifinals, he is a guy that could be absolutely a league winner down the home stretch, especially if he beats out CMC down the home stretch. So let's see how that goes. T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Higgins. Hopefully Jamar Chase stays out if you are riding Higgins right now. If not, I would say that Higgins very likely to come down, but we will see. I don't know what Jamar Chase is playing for. I know the Bengals still technically in the playoff hunt, but it's getting thinner by the week. Calvin Ridley has the good game with no Zay Jones, no Christian Kirk out there. Somebody was Elijah Cooks was leading the wide receiver core in yards at halftime. Calvin Ridley got there in the second half. Probably not a lot of Calvin Ridley advancing out there. Don't know that he has like the Amari Cooper ceiling anyway, but he's definitely a nice guy to have, I think, heading into week 17. But I don't know that he's got the upside of a lot of guys who are going to be chalky plays. CeeDee Lamb, very important player for a lot of people out there. Detroit, Dallas, going to be one of the chalkiest configurations. A lot of week 17 correlation for Detroit, Dallas. Gabe Davis gets there. Gabe Davis is one of the takes that I had on Saturday, or the Saturday Sunday video, talking about, hey, Diggs and James Cook are going to be in every lineup. How do you get leverage? Turned out to be just playing Gabe Davis. And actually, I think James Cook still made that winning lineup on Saturday as well. But Gabe Davis, anytime Diggs doesn't go off, Davis more live to go off. And Davis does go off there. So if you carried him into the finals, another guy I'd have some concern for, but with how Diggs is playing, I think Diggs just is full 1-2-3 Cancun mode, or full like get me out of Buffalo mode. But I think Diggs is kind of done as a Bill, but we'll see. It's now been like 6 weeks of Diggs not doing anything, and I don't have a lot of faith in that turning around now. Amon-Ra, number 11, again, another key player. He and Lamb, I imagine, will be a fairly owned duo heading into the finals, but we'll see. Osborne, okay. KJ Osborne, Darius Slayton, two more late guys that would have done absolutely nothing for you all year. Demarcus Robinson was barely draftable, if draftable at all, in the 18th round. So these are the guys that got there. So again, if you're relying on Osborne, relying on Slayton, relying on Demarcus Robinson, relying on DJ Chark, I think your luck may run out in the finals. But hey, still happy to be there. Tight ends are the most interesting position, I think, to look at this week, just because of the fact that nobody separated at all at tight end this week. George Kittle put up 16, Chig put up 15, and Njoku 13. But really, none of these are slate breakers. The one that was a tough one is going to be all the way down here. Sam Laporta, 3.3 points. Absolutely brutal. Of course, he was a guy that advanced a lot of teams for people out there, myself included. He was, I think, 4.3 PPR points as well. Laporta just did absolutely nothing for this one. So I think that he is one of the biggest disappointments, getting outscored by Pharaoh Brown, Steven Sullivan, Dawson Knox, Brevin Jordan. I'm not going to list all the names, but you look at the names that are above him. Tremendous fall for Laporta. So if you survive Laporta and you're bringing him into the finals, good shot he can go off. What have we talked about all year? Dallas, one of the worst teams defending tight ends in terms of the EPA metrics, as well as the volume going there. So I would say for Laporta, if you snuck him in, fingers crossed. But I think obviously he killed a lot of teams, including, again, a lot of my best ball teams as well. Look at the chats here. Let's be the week that Pollard smashes and wins someone BBM. Probably not. Pollard, though, the run bad is incredible. Like that one play he had where he got across the goal line but didn't get the football across. It got turned all the way around. Just the run bad for him is incredible. But I do think that, I'm not rooting for him. That's how I feel about it. But definitely big leverage for sure. Big Lenny, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be, Lenny. Again, look, do you want to go back to this screen, Lenny? Where'd CMC finish in half-point PPR? Number 2, Breece Hall dusted him. I don't know. Were we saying that Breece Hall dumped the load on Big Lenny? I would say so. Let's look at Underdog Fantasy, though. Of course, not going to be lots of love here. Before we get into this one, I have to take my lumps coming up for this one, guys. So please subscribe down below. Please hit the like button. Again, Splash Play, fully transparent channel as always here. We're going to find some small victories here, but it's been a journey, guys. So if you're not subscribed and you're watching these videos, I think still about half the people who watch the channel are not necessarily subscribed. So please subscribe down below, and let's talk Best Ball Mania here. Oh, yeah, but yeah, fuck that. Before I take my lumps, I'll just go check out Probably. Even if I'm not winning at best ball, I'm winning at sports betting. Thanks to Probably, of course. We've made some nice changes as well. If you are a paying member on Probly, we're now filtering out any bets that are within a potential margin of error. So now you're truly getting the most profitable bets. Anything above a 2 Probly score is going to be a good one, and that's what we're showing on there. So check it out. Promo code SPLASH will save you 50% on a monthly package or a yearly package. Monthly package means you get all of our pregame data for under $10 a month, and for under $25 a month, you get all of our live in-game data as well. So go check that out at probably.com, and please support the show. All right. And by the way, that does support the show because that supports me. So support the show by supporting Splash Play, but I'll support the show by supporting Probably. All right. Way too early. Actually, no, I don't give a shit about that. That was just the automatic draft I did overnight when I was jonesing for tournaments to open. That's how it goes. BBM, nothing in BBM survived. So tough one for me. This was my best shot. Of course, did have Deshaun Watson in this build. Finished number 5, though. We lost to a team with, let's see, what do they have? Gibbs, Rashad White. Thankfully, did not lose to CMC, so fuck you, Big Lenny. CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we lost to a team that actually did not have Amari Cooper, which bums me out because I do have Amari Cooper on the team. But Pickens, Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, that was enough to get there. The tight end points, he barely got any with Tyler Higbee, but still outscored Sam Laporta. The running backs carried him here, but it was mostly, this isn't 0 RB, a hero RB with Jahmyr Gibbs, but definitely not a stud running back lineup. So that's who we lost to in this pod. This is my most live shot to win. The team that I brought into this one, Jared Goff holding me down. Had hope heading into Sunday or the late games on Sunday. DeAndre Swift had an okay day. He makes the lineup. Devon Achane did not give me anything useful. My running backs just kind of ran out of juice. Roshan I had some hope for. If he put up the day that Khalil Herbert has, we would be closer. Would have added another 10 points on, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. Devontae Adams, though, is the one that I'd really point to here. 1.4, I think PPR points is what he had. So then 0.9 fantasy points is what he had in half-point PPR. He killed me. Pittman being hurt killed me. Ayuk made the lineup finally, but it just didn't matter. We didn't have enough horses despite having the 46-point day for Amari Cooper. This bums me out. If I had CeeDee Lamb here, I think we are then closer to advancing, probably still not getting there. And I guess that's the one takeaway I would have for my underdog portfolio is like, I wasn't even close enough to make it. Like with the guys who hit the nuts around me, I just didn't have enough. But to not have the Cooper team advancing, like that one really hurt me for most of the weekend until heading into the game last night. I had Cedric Tillman making my roster with 2.3 fantasy points. So just some missteps here. Kadarius Toney with where I drafted him. Here he went at pick 276. I don't really know what that means. So went a little bit later than he was going for parts of the draft, but no Pittman, no Kadarius Toney. I just didn't have enough dogs to get there for this team. So that was a bummer. The rest of the teams just got smoked, which I guess is a positive. I had this Lamar Tyreek team. Again, needed Tyreek to go off. He couldn't give me that. Rashad White, just really bad running back rooms. I think this was, again, the downside what I talked about with like Amari Cooper and Derek Carr when I was going through the top performing players. When you are getting carried in by James Cook, when you're getting carried in by these guys, then they don't go off. You need somebody else to step up. And Singletary gave me about 9, I think. Kenneth Gainwell, you can see he's the one that made the roster at 9.4. These guys just didn't get there. Wide receiver, Addison gets hurt, doesn't give me anything. Pittman is out, which was such a bummer. We still had guys step up, but when you have Flowers putting up 17, Dobbs putting up 16, Osborne 18, Tyree putting up 14, it's hard to jump like any Amari Cooper, jump CeeDee Lamb, jump Amon-Ra. So we just got buried there. Mark Andrews, a dead pick as well. He doesn't help out with the draft capital. He went out. And Laporta putting up 3.3 again, did not get this team there. So huge downer for that one. Let's see. Needed Adams to have less than 2 points to advance a Pitbull. Absolute miracle. I'm glad my sacrifice was there for you, Andrew, but he wasn't going for 40 anyway. So honestly, it is what it is. But that was just a dog shit game where for the Raiders to win that game and not be passing after the first quarter, it's absolutely batshit, but that's what it is. This team I thought had a shot just because of the fact that it was Goff and Wilson, but then 181 for this team here who did have Chubb. So despite Chubb going in, you see what correlation does for you, by the way. So he doesn't have Chubb. Chubb's been out for the entire year, but he does get there with Amari Cooper in this build because he had that Cleveland correlation for himself. He advances with Amon-Ra, Cooper, Mike Evans, so 3 strong wide receiver plays there. David Njoku, again, Cleveland correlation gets him there despite losing his top running back, and he also did handcuff himself, so not normally something you'd advocate for, but if you had this team without Chubb and had Jerome Ford, let alone if he had put on because he probably could have taken CeeDee Lamb over Nick Chubb, this team could be even better. So AJ Kamari beat me in this team, put up 181, massive score by him, but the team could have been better. So I think that does speak a little bit more to if he had drafted a 0RB team and it correlated even more, he might have been better off. But obviously he didn't get the QB anyway with Watson, so I guess that bailed him out too. Last BBM team here, again, no finalists for me, so that's the main summary point here. This is one I had hoped for in terms of just the low-owned construction, but it just doesn't get there. Thankfully, didn't finish last place at any pods, so I'll take that as a moral victory here. But Dak and Brock Purdy, of course, Brock a dog shit game, Dak not a great game. Antonio Gibson makes it as my RB2. Gainwell makes it as my flex, so that shows you how bad it went at wide receiver. A.J. Brown, not there. Debo, not there. CeeDee Lamb has a good day, but nobody else even cracks 15, so it's hard to get there. Kittle, good tight end. This build just needed A.J. Brown and Debo to have the days that some of the other guys had. Like if A.J. Brown had a one good A.J. Brown day like was having earlier in the year, if Debo had rolled up Ayuk's production like has been going on all year, maybe this one has a better shot to get there, but still we would have been down quite a bit of points. So what are you going to do? And I feel like Blitzburg also beat me in a team last year, in a pod last year, because I remember that name. You don't see Blitzburg too often here in Underdog. Let's look at one bright side on Underdog here. Where's this draft? So this team was my closest one to advancing. CMC, Lamar, Derek Carr team. Look who we beat. Look who we beat at number 6. So yeah, sure what? I'm not going to win any money on Underdog this year. I'm not going to win any big money. Maybe getting close to break even. Probably not even close to break even. But we beat the fantasy flock by 8 points. So suck it, fantasy flock. No wins for you this year. Yeah, fantasy flock. Oh, it seems like you drafted some really good teams this year. I guess you got the better of me this one time. I haven't done the voice in a while, guys, so cut me some slack. That's my fantasy flock impression. One of the best in the biz. Christian McCaffrey in this team. Derek Carr, man, just tough to not advance the team. McCaffrey, Carr, again, Cook and Achane give me nothing. Had all my running backs still live besides Kendre Miller, and knowing my luck, he'll play this week and ruin Taysom Hill's week. Gus Edwards makes this lineup. Chris Olave, Metcalf, Ayuk, again, perfectly fine wide receivers. They just guys of the guys going in the first round. And I do think that speaks to what we talked a lot during draft season, where by drafting the wide receivers early, like because every wide receiver is going earlier, the guys who like were really valuable were going even earlier. And as a result, like a lot of those early receivers are the ones that put up 20, 30, 40 fantasy point days. And instead we just had good wide receiver games or pretty good wide receiver games, and they weren't even close. So for Olave to put up over 100 yards and not even be close, kind of a downer, but that's how that goes. Still definitely a team that I feel like had some legs. I feel like if it had made this finals, it would have been okay. But obviously we didn't get there, and only one advances in the Chihuahua. So we will not be Chihuahua champions. And frankly, do I even want to be a Chihuahua champion? Probably not. Big board super flex. This one finished in 6th. It's whatever. I don't really give a shit about super flex teams. And again, we'll really be trying hard not to draft them next year. But yeah, I'll just pull up a team for the sake of completionism. Because we have good things coming here. I'm taking my lumps early because we have, when I show you DraftKings, you guys will get why there's still some joy in my heart. Miles Sanders on this team, not great. But Montgomery, Charbonnet's falling apart down the home stretch. Gainwell makes this roster. Cook, again, not advancing for us, pretty tough. We did have good games from Allen and also Jordan Love, so could have made it here in the Superflex. CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle. Waddle gets hurt, brutal. Watson not in, brutal. This team was pretty good. It's just the injuries here. Waddle going out early. Watson being useless again. Addison going out. Pierce doesn't pull up any sort of what was left behind of Michael Pittman in the slack. That's a tough run out for this team, but could have been better. Tight end, though, was clearly this is a pre-draft team. Of course, this is the big board super flex. So Irv Smith, Hayden Hurst, Darnell Washington. This was the tight end room that I got completely wrong. Of course, in a big board where I was chock full of Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, Taysom Hill, whatever, like every late tight end. This is the one that I had in this build. So you can't overcome 1.3 points from Darnell Washington, along with 6.9 from Josh Downs. So that's what killed this team. All right. Those are all my underdog teams. We've cleansed ourselves. And before we get to this, guys, if you want to play an underdog, boy, what fun it is on underdog. Use the promo code SPLASH, $100 deposit match still going on. Along with a mystery pick'em is what you get on there. DraftKings. The good news on DraftKings. We are still live to be a millionaire. You know why? Because I put up the best fucking score anybody could have put up. One DK finalist, one DK semifinalist is all it took to get there. My nuts team here with no Christian McCaffrey. So this is the most interesting part to me. We don't have direct leverage on Christian McCaffrey in terms of other Niners. We have everybody who's not Christian McCaffrey on this team. Russell Wilson, Rashad White, David Montgomery, Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. So we got, I believe, a combined 155 from our 4 wide receivers here. So I don't think that Pickens can do it again. I don't think that Cooper can do it again. But I do still have Amon-Ra and CeeDee Lamb. I still do have Roshan here. I still have Jerome Ford. Still have Dak, who didn't make the lineup. Still have Cortland Sutton, if you're listening at home. I know you hurt your brain. I know your things are spinning around a little bit. Let's just not play in week 17 is what I think. Save yourself for next year. The Denver season is pretty much done, right? They lost that game. Didn't look, did they lose? Yeah, they lost that game. They lost that game to the Patriots. It was an ugly one. So much football this weekend. Point being, low-owned Russell Wilson stack advancing is my hope, I think, of winning Best Ball Mania, or winning a, no, I have to not say it. I'm not going to win Best Ball Mania. Winning the DK Millie. So this team is live. We have a couple spots we're not going to score points. Deuce Vaughn, rather, again, a useless pick. I think I had 2 Deuce Vaughn shares on DraftKings. Of course, he's the one that makes it the finals for me, the great irony of life. Michael Mayer hopefully comes back in with that toe injury, but he did not give us any points this week. And Taysom Hill, lowest usage he's had all year, which is not great for him. But I hope if there's anything that's going to help me win $1 million this year or this week, it's going to be Taysom Hill going off at tight end. So these are the plays, but obviously happy to have Laporta in. And again, advanced with Laporta only putting up 4.8 points. So this is my great white hope. And I would say, it is a great white hope of splash play writ large. So again, the DraftKings tournament, why I'm less psyched to be advancing on DraftKings. It is a 1,300 person final compared to, I believe, I think it's 13 or 11. It's one of those two. 1,300 person final. So much bigger, about 3 times the size of Underdog's final. That's not great. Again, the prizes as well on DraftKings, not that great, where if you finish like towards the bottom half, you're just not making a lot of money. If you finish top 10 though, you're winning 100 grand. So I feel good about this team. I think I have a very strong team, which is not Christian McCaffrey dependent, which is certainly going to come with some risk, but also come with some potential upside there. And I don't think I could have a stronger wide receiver core overall for these, at least the big two of Amon-Ra and CeeDee Lamb. That'll be chalky. But if Pickens could do it again, I don't know that he can, but definitely the usage pattern is a little bit different. He broke some big plays that are very hard to dupe. But I would say that for Pickens, a sign of life will take at this point. But we have mostly active players. We have Allen Robinson leverage if Pickens fails. So we've got a team. And Jalen Tolbert put up 7 points this week, so we're okay. Good luck, Spags. Let's fucking go. Rumor has it Rashad Penny's putting up 45 week 17. Yes. That would be great. Great for all my teams that died a long, long time ago. All right. Okay, Lenny, go fuck yourself, man. Do you think you really need to be doing this today of all days? Lenny, I'm not going to fully ban you. Take a timeout. You're a shithead. Where are your teams, Big Lenny? Tell me about that. Come back and say that. I can't tell if Lenny's like a nice troll or just a person that I despise. It's hard to tell in between. He came into one of the videos the other day and I did acknowledge him in chat and then he just stopped. But I think he's just like Jones for something. I hope you advance CMC, Lenny, because if you didn't, you're a fucking fraud and also a big fat joke that nobody likes. But that's my DK Millionaire team. So there we go. Drafters, still technically live on Drafters, top 100 there. You want to see a bad wide receiver room? Here's one for you. Tyreek Hill doesn't crest over 20. Devontae Smith doesn't crest over 20. Alec Pierce doesn't crest over 10. Michael Pittman out. Zay Jones out. Sky Moore out. Terrace Marshall still not active, even though why the fuck don't you see what Terrace Marshall could do one more game? I don't know why they don't do that, but they refuse to. TJ Hawkinson doesn't give me over 10. Dalton Kincaid doesn't give me over 2. Stacey Bell doesn't give me over 1. But we did have the Breece Hall nuts game here, 43 points for him. Kyron Williams puts up 16. So I think we'll finish around the top 100 in Drafters. Of course, Drafters, a full 17-week season is how it goes on Drafters. But in general, I would say I think there are things I could definitely do better on Drafters. You can see here, I only put in 7 entries because we started that Drafters partnership a little bit later in the cycle. But I would say for Drafters, you don't want to worry about pod luck. You don't want to worry about anything besides building good teams. Playing on Drafters is definitely going to be a team that allows you to do that. And again, I'll get a return on my investment here pretty much no matter what. But it's going to be hard to make up. As you can see, your first place, 2611. I'm at 2480. Don't think we'd make that jump. I do think we can make a jump to maybe top 25, but even that could be asking for a lot here. So that's how it goes on Drafters, but still happy to be taking a profit on Drafters potentially. Number 1 team overall on Drafters, going to be this one. Matthew Stafford, James Conner, Kyron Williams. It's a solid team. It's not like an exciting team to see in first place, but this is the top team. A 2 QB build in first place right now. Honestly, I don't even get how this one's in first place based on the running backs. Obviously, you got a lot of good games from Kyron. Few early, really good games from Achane. Besides that, it's just kind of okay games from Jacobs, from Connor, from all those guys. That's pretty much it. AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. So you got the Amari Cooper nuts. That's what jumps him up a lot here. Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, Zay Flowers. So this guy might be able to hold just because of Amari Cooper finally having the big spike week because he's competing against a lot of Tyreek Hill teams, a lot of teams that I think are going to have different receivers up top. So Dorito might hold here at number 1. Again, this is entry number 24. So he put in a good amount of entries on Drafters. And again, why we would advocate for probably trying to put in a few more entries on Drafters. And it's crazy that he moved up to first place despite having Jake Ferguson putting up just under 9 fantasy points. Again, it was a flat tight end week, but 4 tight ends, none of them even give you 10 points. Pretty brutal for him. Rams, the only true threats to the Niners in the NFC playoffs. I don't think that's accurate at all. Based on what we saw from the Niners yesterday, especially, I don't think so. Lenny is salty that the Rams will knock off San Francisco in the playoffs. I hope so. I hope he's salty about something because the thing too is whenever there are guys like Lenny and they come into chats on YouTube or anything on social media too, where you see people angry tweeting, it's that they're just they're mad about something in their own thing. They have to come here and try to dunk on you because it's not a fun bit. It's not a cute bit that we're both enjoying. I just find them annoying. So I think that's how it goes across the industry of everything. Of course, people complaining about stuff. Let's look at the odds for week 17. That's a guy though. Lenny is a guy that needs to get something right is how I feel about it. So more power to him. I hope that brings him joy. Where's the NFL/odds? I don't know why this is not saved on here. Week 17 odds. Look at this pretty quickly, then we'll hop off. What are the key games to look at so far? Again, Jets, Cleveland. Cleveland a big favorite here, but Amari Cooper against that Jets D. Just don't have a lot of faith there. The implied totals will be pretty low in this one. Actually, I think I pulled these before. Actually, make sure I have this updated here. Let's make sure I give you guys the implied totals as well so you know what games you should be really watching out for this week. So let me just plug it into my Excel so we can do the calculations here, because I'm not going to do the math off the top of my head because I do not have that ability. Game on Thursday, of course, is going to be Jets and Cleveland. Let me just paste these all in real fast. Bear with me for a second here. By the way, if you are also planning your schedule out, keep in mind that all the games are on Sunday. All the main slate games are on Sunday this week. You do have one on Thursday, one on Saturday, and then everything else on Sunday. So you will not be sweating into the new year no matter what. All right. Implied total for this game, 14.5 implied points for the Jets, 21.5 for Cleveland. Again, Amari picking up one of those touchdowns, certainly possible. I do think Jerome Ford is interesting leverage for this game as well, but Kareem Hunt just keeps taking away goal line work from Ford, even though Ford gets more volume overall. So I think this game, no matter what, not the most exciting game in terms of what you're expecting in terms of outlier production, but if you do have one of the running backs, in particular Ford, I would say, honestly, if you snuck in Hunt too, I think they could put up a 2-touchdown game and it would not be surprising in this spot. Detroit and Dallas, very high total here, 53.5 points overall. The team totals, though, 23.8 for Detroit, 29.8 for Dallas. So Dallas, a 6-point favorite at home in this game, which is kind of surprising given how they played recently. So, yeah, I don't know about this one. This is obviously the big shootout game, the one you're hoping to hit. A lot of CeeDee Lamb, a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown, myself included, floating around out there. The total certainly gives you some faith. So I would hope that if you have Detroit, you have Dallas. I'd be hoping you have some game stacks with it. Hope to get some outlier plays that are a little bit less owned alongside the pretty decently owned CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown. But again, 53.5 implied points should be the highest total of the week, I would believe. Arizona and Philly. This is a very high implied total for Philly here. 29.3 implied points, compared to just 18.8 for Arizona. Your Trey McBride still be alive in the spot, I would think, as a bring back potentially for Philadelphia. The Philadelphia side, though, again, would really expect them to try to put it down. They didn't quite do it versus the Giants. Obviously won that game fairly easily, despite it getting a little bit out of hand late or getting too close late. But for Philly here, like, they should really be dusting Arizona in this spot at home in week 17 with them still playing for everything. So AJ Brown, not going to be a high advance rate guy, but DeAndre Swift, if he's floating around out there, Devontae Smith, if he's floating around out there, even Dallas Goedert, like, these are all guys that can have an outlier day just because I don't expect Arizona to put up much resistance. Miami and Baltimore, 47 implied points overall, 21.5 for Miami, 25.5 for Baltimore. Would think you feel pretty good about Gus Edwards in this spot if you have him on your teams. Lamar, definitely could expect some production here with how both defenses are going and how also that game went yesterday. Obviously, the Ravens put up a lot of points, but that was more of a defensive-minded matchup. Kind of think this one skews a little bit more towards the under, but we did see, of course, this game put up 70 points last year. So you're certainly hoping for that outcome if you stacked up Miami, Baltimore, but I now have no dogs in that race. So I'm hoping this game definitely goes under. Tennessee and Houston. Tennessee, 19.5 implied points. Houston, 23 implied points. This game feels like kind of a slog. Again, maybe feels like a line where they expect CJ Stroud to play, even though I personally do not expect CJ Stroud to play. But if Stroud goes, obviously your shares of the Texans will still be live and valid. If not, though, I think you're in a pretty tough spot. Tennessee, I think we saw them do what I expected against Seattle, where Tennessee's defense has been really bad defending the pass, especially over the middle of the field. But Geno Smith did not really take advantage of that last week. So I don't necessarily think that Case Keenum's going to be the one to do it this week. But we have seen Houston be competitive. So if Stroud's not in, I guess you can have some hope for your Texans receivers, but not a high enough total to really feel that confident in it. New Orleans, 19.5 implied points. Tampa Bay, 22.5. So if you have Derek Carr, I would officially be concerned if you advanced him. It's a really low total for Derek Carr against Tampa Bay defense that we know does not defend the pass very well. 0.16 EPA on throws of under 20 air yards. 0.58 EPA on throws of more than 20 air yards. 0.04 EPA per dropback. 0.05 EPA per pass. Like, this should be soft production. To see that total that low kind of seems like an ugly game. And maybe the hope would be that Taysom Hill gets more involved in this one because of the fact you have to score in tight spaces against Tampa Bay potentially. But I don't think this looks like an outlier game for Tennessee. So if you advance Carr, looks a little bit ugly for that spot heading into week 17. Rams, 24 implied points. Giants, 18 implied points. Again, right away, I feel like this is a Kyren Williams spot. Not a high total game. Giants certainly competitive, despite the fact that they're playing for absolutely nothing at this point. Did not give up, despite the Eagles being well in control of that game for most of it. So I would say for Giants, Rams, I think this game is live to be the one that has some sneaky players getting in there. Certainly, Kyren going to look good. Puka, I would say, is one of those guys as well. Not to the same extent of an Amari Cooper or a Derek Carr. I do think Puka comes back down to earth this week, though. So if this game shoots out, I would say if you really are heavy on the Rams, if you're hoping that Kyren and Puka or Cooper Kupp somehow, if you hope those guys get there, I would really say that you want to see the Giants starting Tyrod Taylor just because Tyrod's got an actual arm, actual juice. Tommy DeVito is just the fucking, I hate it as an Italian-American person. He's just basically a gimmick. And I don't think he should be out there for this game, but we'll see what they do. You can make the case he's earned the starting job, but Tyrod Taylor is, again, an actual backup QB who's done some things, where Tommy DeVito, just kind of the luck box of all luck boxes to even be starting, let alone getting any production whatsoever. Vegas, 20.8 implied points. Indianapolis, 23.8 implied points. Would have thought this game had a shot to be a shootout, but Vegas's defense is coming through pretty strong. The Indianapolis side still offering a lot of explosive plays, so maybe you can get there somehow. But this matchup looks a lot less good than it did in the preseason, certainly when I was really excited for it for AR. It is in a dome, though, so that's going to be a positive, but I don't think you want Gardner Minshew with how he's been playing recently, going up against a Raiders D that's resurgent, and every week just getting a little bit better. Like their EPA numbers coming down every week. Antonio Pierce should keep this job 100%, just in case that needs to be said out loud. But this game, maybe some sneaky pieces can get there. Jonathan Taylor being a 2-touchdown game for him would not be a surprise. I don't think Josh Jacobs will go again this year. Wouldn't be shocked if Devontae Adams also calls off the dogs a little bit too, because why is he out there if they're not even going to pass past the first quarter in some games? Obviously, unique game script against Kansas City, but still, I don't know why he's out there at this point. But I would say that this game, I think, has a shot of some production here. But I would say it's more likely a one-off piece of the full game stack getting there in a meaningful way. New Orleans, 14.5 implied points. Yikes. Buffalo, 26.5 implied points. The irony of all ironies would be if Stephon Diggs goes off here. Obviously, that would be a tremendous hassle for all the Gabe Davis people who snuck him in. But I would say that you are live if you have Gabe Davis. You're live if you have James Cook. Buffalo's run defense is very good on the year. Certainly has gotten better. But right now, negative 0.22 EPA per rush. Allowed negative 0.17 EPA per red zone rush. So you'd expect Buffalo to get there through the air. So if you snuck Diggs in, if you got Gabe Davis in, if you got one of the tight ends in, especially Knox, I would say, I think you're in a pretty interesting spot here, because Buffalo should be thrown all over New England. New England, not a good pass defense, but is a good run defense. I think that would certainly be live for sure. Gabe going 0-0. It's possible, but then you need Diggs to actually produce. And I don't know if Diggs is capable of that. But if Diggs is going to do it, it is against New England, because everything that he does is what they give up. They give up a 38% target rate out wide, which is one of the highest marks in the league, plus 0.22 EPA allowed out wide. That's where Diggs is getting all of his targets. So Diggs, again, if you stock him in, if Diggs somehow, after I had so much Diggs this year, if Diggs somehow beats out CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, and all those guys, I will be very tilted. That's what I will say. But it does seem like certainly a good spot for Diggs once again, a good spot for Gabe once again. And hopefully none of them go off. Carolina, Jacksonville, 15.5 implied points for Carolina. So not expecting right now them to keep the momentum going for their game. Jacksonville, 22.5 implied points. This game, low total. Trevor Lawrence certainly going the wrong way. Bryce Young going the right way, but in a tough matchup against Jacksonville. I would not expect there to be a lot here. I think if you have one-offs, I wouldn't feel bad about it. But really, a total under 40, it's hard to trust much there and hard to find lots of love. Niners, oh my God. Niners, 31 implied points. Oh no, that's so much. That is so much to have to fade. But Niners, 31 implied points. Washington, 17.5 implied points. The big hope here, if you are fading the Niners like I am in my DK Millie finalist, I think you got to hope that the Niners absolutely abuse them early on and the game just goes away. It just becomes a thing where it's okay, what are we going to keep doing here? We're not going to keep rolling out McCaffrey at this point. The hope is that this is almost a 1/2 game. And with it being 31 implied points, which I believe is the highest implied total for a single team we've had this year. I don't know. Fading the Niners is impossible. I would say if you have Niners, if you have Purdy with Ayuk, with Debo, with Kittle, I think that is the most fun combination to have going into this week, because if they get through the big pass plays, and also if Purdy just coming off this game, a nut low game where he's no longer the MVP, he should have never been the MVP candidate anyway. Really feels like for Niners here, if you have the Purdy double or triple, that's your best CMC weapon. If you have CMC himself, you're going to have a good median production. You're going to feel good about it, but you are the chalk if you have McCaffrey. And that's why you can come in victory lap McCaffrey, but you're the fucking chalk if you have McCaffrey. So just keep that in mind here. But the chalk is definitely looking like good chalk this week, because if Washington keeps even the barest minimum of competitive, you're going to see McCaffrey have a good day. So fuck me. What happened to Diggs? I just don't think he wants to be there anymore. He pushed back on it in press conferences and whatever, but his brother tweeting it out, I do think that that's one of those things that he probably doesn't want to be in Buffalo anymore. And he's a mercurial guy, was bitching in the preseason. I think we're seeing the full outcome of that. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's a player that is not good anymore. He's getting a little bit older, but I don't think he should be falling off the way he has. I just think that it's something is not clicking with him and Josh Allen anymore. And he used to be Allen's safety blankie, and now it's he's not even going him in those spots. Still a lot of targets for Diggs though, but the connection is just not there the same way. The 2v2 is CMC, Olave teams for CD and Mon-Ra. I mean, I'd feel pretty good about that. I think if I were rolling into the finals with that as my two, I mean, I am rolling the second half of that as my 2v2. I don't think that's a bad thing here. And again, the spot being not great for New Orleans, that low total for New Orleans, if you are a CMC Olave team, maybe not that great. Atlanta, Chicago, keep going through here again. All the games on Sunday, 17.5 implied points for Atlanta, 20.5 for Chicago. This seems like it plays down. If Fields advanced here, I'd still feel okay about that. Moore still in play, Kmet's still in play, all of that. But like Bijan Robinson against a tough Bears run defense, I don't think he's a play that really is going to matter too much. Drake London, I mean, he put up zeros or put up basically a zero. I mean, definitely didn't make a roster this week in best ball. I don't think Atlanta, like this game looks like the ugliest one on paper. Of course, I think last year Carolina Tampa Bay was one of the ugliest ones on paper. That one ends up hitting for the nuts for at least a few players. So not a great game, but it is a game that's on the slate. Pittsburgh, 19 implied points. Seattle, 22.5. This does not give me a lot of faith for George Pickens. Is there anything I could talk myself into for Pickens? Not really. Man. The Seattle defends wide receivers out wide really well. 26% target rate, negative 0.1 EPA. They defend deep passes well as well. 0.04 EPA there and only a 4% deep ball rate. This is not a George Pickens matchup. So sucks for me. Sucks for all of us out there that advance George Pickens. He can still get there. He's incredibly talented, but do not love this total. Do not love this matchup for George Pickens, even though hard to argue a guy coming off of 38 points, but man, it's not great. Fucking sure. Just scroll back, short game. The audacity. Yes, I did. I got a DK finalist. It's a whole segment on the show. Cincinnati, 18.8 implied points. Kansas City, 25.8 implied points in this one. So this was the game that people thought would be the shootout of all shootouts. Of course, Kansas City not bringing any heat, can't even beat up on the Raiders now. Cincinnati, though, a very soft defense. The irony of all ironies would be if the Mahomes-Kelsey stat goes off in a big way. If you snuck in Kelsey, I still think he's a tremendous lever against a tight end slate that's not going to have a lot of great guys. I still think Laporte is probably in the best pure tight end matchup on the slate, but I would say for Kelsey, just the fact that he's getting the work, still not getting there over and over again. I think that for Kansas City, it's still a nice implied total in a soft matchup against Cincinnati, whose defense is completely gone the last month or so of the season. So Chiefs, I don't think you advance anybody that's going to matter, but if you're bringing Rashee Rice, if you're bringing Travis Kelce, even if you're bringing Pacheco, who I think got concussed in that last game, you're definitely going to have a shot against this in the spot because Cincinnati is probably not going to be able to keep up. Chargers, Denver. This one is very important to me, but only 22 implied points. So many 22 implied point totals here. 22 implied points for Denver, 16.5 for the Chargers. Chargers obviously not bringing a lot. Denver's defense soft enough, though, to perhaps get something going. But I would say on the Denver side, a matchup against the Chargers D, we do know Denver likes to run the ball, so hopefully the Chargers keep it competitive, or even take a lead would be nice if the Chargers could somehow do that. I am rooting heavily for Jerry Jeudy in this spot, but I think for Jerry Jeudy, he's not been very good on the year, did not come through when Sutton got concussed. But I will say, if Sutton gets concussed and is out in the concussion protocol this week, I'll feel a lot better about my Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims shares heading into the DK finals. So I think we're live. I think Denver is the lever I needed with that full stack with Russell Wilson, with Mims and Jeudy. So I'm not mad about it. That's my low owned lever. This is my low owned lever. And I wish it were 28 implied points for Denver, but obviously they're not good. So you're not going to get 28 implied points. And Sunday Night Football to cap us all off, 22 implied points for Green Bay, 24.5 for Minnesota. If you stuck in Justin Jefferson, this is not the team that bracketed him and shut him down last year. I would say for Jefferson, you were definitely live to still get there in the finals for sure. I would say for Green Bay's side, going against Minnesota blitzes as a high rate, so maybe you get a few more short passes to Jaden Reed if he's healthy and able to go. Wicks is good, but Wicks got hurt in that game and couldn't come back in. Dobbs was more of the safety blanket after Wicks went out. So I would say this game definitely live for something, but all the guys who were in this game probably haven't really helped you advance besides KJ Osborne. So I don't know what people have in this game for Sunday Night Football, but definitely still be some things to sweat if you are like in the lead somehow, or you're a top finishing lineup amidst the early slate or the full main slate. Once you get to Sunday Night Football, like I think you do have to sweat out Green Bay, Minnesota, just because there's definitely opportunity to have there. But there we go. Let's get crafty. Maybe. I mean, Tucker Kraft is still involved. Obviously, don't expect Luke Musgrave to play again this year with the lacerated kidney that he has. But again, not the highest implied total. So like you don't expect a shootout here, but if the production concentrates for one of these guys, I think that certainly you got weapons on both sides that can get there. And really a 2 TD game for AJ Dillon, not out of the question either. He was getting all the goal line work this past game. There's a lot of guys in this game who would like be just enough to put somebody over the top. So I think you have to sweat that game out and not feel bad about it if you do have Green Bay and Minnesota players as well. massive edge for you. Sutton's out. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I need it. So there we go, guys. That is going to be our best ball review. And again, the main thing I will say for all of you guys out there is I wish you the best of luck here. You have survived so much. If you somehow advance the team, whether it be in one of the big tournaments, whether it be in one of the small tournaments, you guys saw it's hard to do that. It's hard to get teams in there, especially if you're not maxing everything out. So feel proud of yourself. Don't get down, obviously, unless you have nothing left, then get down, dust yourself off, and maybe play some DFS or playoff best ball is what I would say. But really, like, it is a journey. It is an arduous journey. Best ball is, I think, one of the most fun bits of suffering you'll ever have in your life. And that's what I would say for you guys in this ride here. And I think if you have anything you feel good about, I will say last year I felt dead in the water for my DraftKings teams. This year, I think that team's actually got some legs. For Best Ball Mania, though, only 400 plus people in that one. That's the better sweat for sure. That's the most fun sweat you'll have. And I don't have one. I'm sad. I'm sad to not have one here. Would have liked to keep it going, get another finalist in this year, but it's not how it goes. So feel proud for whatever you've accomplished. I really hope it goes well for you guys out there. Hope to hear some wins. I know a lot of excited tweets came in my inbox or in my app mentions this morning. So I hope it goes well for you guys, really and truly. But if not, then hopefully we all enjoyed the ride. That's all I could say. Before we go, guys, please subscribe down below. Again, smash that like button if you can. Really appreciate all you guys being here today as we do this post-mortem on our teams. Shout out to the chat as always. Appreciate you, Spags. Good luck, Spags. Lost the BBM spot in the finals by 0.3 points. That is brutal. Again, that's why to me, it's like I wasn't that close, so I can't be that mad. To knock it in by 0.3 points, just, man, it's tough. But try not to think about it all week. That's the other thing I would say for all you out there. Thank you, Spags. It's been a fun year. Appreciate all your hard work. Good luck at the finals. If you win, can we all get a free hat? I don't know. We got to see. I don't even want to put the cart ahead of the horse. Like, I think I'm still going to do the giveaway of bankrolled entries, but I don't even want to talk about it now because, let's see if we could do this. I'm so anxious about it. I was up, tossing and turning all night just because of both the being sads, but also this is a good shot. I have a team that's mostly active, so I feel good about it, but we'll see. Last plug as well for probably.com. Please go check out Probably. Again, save 50% off. You got some crisp money in your pocket and you're in a legal betting state. You are doing yourself a disservice by not using our data. We just win money every day with the data. And of course, it's just mathematical profitability, picking off bets that are inefficient on legal U.S. sportsbooks, using the winningest sportsbooks around the world's data. That's what we do at Probably, and make it very easy for you on your mobile phone. Check it out at probably.com and use promo code SPLASH at probably.com/subscribe. Helps me out a bunch. We really need to get some subs in before the new year. So please go subscribe right now if you have the ability to do so at probably.com/subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow. Playoff best ball. Going to do it again. I'm not sure if it'll be just underdog once again. I have to talk to drafters and see if I can, because we might be doing some drafters drafts in the home stretch. But go check it out tomorrow here on Splash Play. Playoff best ball. Dust yourself off regular season best ball and get back in the mix. Try to do some playoff drafts with me here. And I'll be back tomorrow for that one. So follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Shout out to the Squirt Squad as well. Appreciate all you guys being members. Hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month. If you want to also support the show, help us keep putting on streams heading into the 2024. I would appreciate that a bunch. But beautiful people here. Hope you all had a great Christmas, and including Short Gamer, who did not want to skim backwards, but now he knows that I'm going to the finals. With one team. Appreciate all of you, though, and I'll be back tomorrow for more. So there we go. I think I said appreciate you, and I'll be back tomorrow 100 times. But that's the truth. So see you then, and good luck, guys. Good luck, and hope you survived. Bye.